As you know, during World War I, many people moved to the cities looking for work. The cities were the place to be, not the place to get away from during this time, and roughly 2 million people each year moved into the cities. Rural and agricultural areas were left behind remained fairly unchanged. They were not moving forward in the same rate that the cities were. And the urban scene is home to a variety of cultures and ethnic backgrounds. This is characterized by competition and constant change, as well as a variety of activities like theater, vaudeville houses, bars, and restaurants. So we start to see people spending leisure time. City dwellers tolerated drinking, gambling, and casual dating, which were behaviors that were not tolerated in the more conservative rural America. Life in the cities was fast-paced, and streets were filled with strangers, cars, trolleys, and buses. We also see different levels of toleration regarding science and religion. There are still many conservatives who stick by fundamentalism, and this is the Protestant religious movement that focuses on the truth of the Bible, that the Bible and the word of the Bible is accepted without question. That the Bible is taken in a very literal sense. Fundamentalists are skeptical of science, and they rejected the theory of evolution, which of course Darwin was espousing. Some of the conservative figures of the time were Billy Sunday and the Amy Semple McPherson. These were popular Hollywood-like evangelists that staged emotional religious revivals. Okay? They supported the ideals of fundamentalism. This comes into conflict with, of course, the theories of evolution and some of the discoveries in science during that time. And this is exemplified in the Scopes trial, sometimes called the Scopes monkey trial. And basically, this was an event that was sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union. They brought this case into court. John Scopes was a teacher. He was arrested and tried for teaching evolution in his biology class. This was actually against the law. There were laws against teaching evolution. So Clarence Darrow is his attorney who represents him. William Jennings Bryan is the prosecutor, and if you think about it, you might remember why that name sounds familiar to you. It has to do with populism. And it basically pits tradition and the values of religion against science. There is also the threat of free expression. Scopes does not win the case. He's actually found guilty and fined $100. However, the case is kind of a precedent in that it marks a breakthrough and it marks some acceptance of the idea of teaching evolution, and actually evolution becomes more commonly taught in schools across America as a result of the case. Also, representing this kind of conservative viewpoint is the passage of the 18th Amendment, which is Prohibition, a ban on the production, sale, and transportation of all alcoholic beverages. And this begins in January of 1920. The effects of Prohibition are that the government really can't enforce Prohibition, and Americans in the post-World War I era want to enjoy life. They're into sort of the urban scene, and it becomes very difficult to enforce the 18th Amendment. Speakeasies are very common. These are hidden saloons and nightclubs. You've seen these probably in the Great Gatsby movie, where you have to use a password or a card to get in. Bootlegging is when people sell alcohol or smuggle it into the country. And bootlegging is often a part of organized crime, which rose during the period of Prohibition as gangsters compete to control the underground drinking scene and create bootlegging empires. The most notorious gangster involved in this organized crime around alcohol is, of course, Al Capone. That's Al Capone in the lower right-hand corner there. Al Capone was most active in Chicago, and he had a bootlegging empire that made over $60 million annually. He took complete control over the liquor industry by killing off competitors using bribery and other forms of violence. Headlines during this era reported over 522 bloody gang killings. He bootlegged alcohol from Canada, and he also owned and operated illegal breweries and ran a network of speakeasies. By 1927, this big fellow, as he was known, was worth over $100 million, and he was finally arrested and jailed for tax evasion. And this is the only crime authorities were ever able to catch up with him on. He was never convicted for his bootlegging operation. The 1920s also marks a new role for women. Prior to the 1920s, Victorian era traditions were followed. Women wore long floor-length dresses. They were basically kept in the home, with their jobs being to cook and clean and take care of the children. However, in the 20s we see the emergence of the flapper, which is a young woman who kind of embraces new, modern, kind of rebellious ways, and that was embodied with new hairstyles, short hair, short dresses, which were just scandalous. They engaged in assertive public behavior. They drove cars, smoked cigarettes, danced out in public. Things that were not previously accepted or tolerated in women. Also, marriage is seen more of a balanced relationship, more of a partnership. And this whole idea of the flapper countered this double standard set for women when it came to sexual identity. So things that were tolerated in men were previously not tolerated in women, but the flapper defied that. Women had more opportunities in the workplace, such as factories, stores, secretaries, and other professions. More women attended college, and because they were in the business world, we start to see some discrimination and inequality. Discrimination and inequality that still exists today in the business world. The idea of families also changed. Margaret Sanger, of course, was the nurse who started the birth control movement. The idea that women could choose whether or not they wanted to have children. Innovations and new technology freed women of traditional family responsibilities. Things like the washing machine freed women of traditional family responsibilities. Marriages were based increasingly more on love and companionship rather than class status. Okay? Children were no longer working, but spent their days in school instead and in organized activities. And these are just some pictures of flappers of the era. This marks the end of this video series. I look forward to talking more about this in class tomorrow.